You've tuned in to the Harbor Park CrossFit Racine's Anchored Podcast.
A podcast about fitness, wellness, and all things Harbor Park CrossFit Racine.
Each episode, we talk about things that are relevant to our gym, with our members, and overall observations from our day-to-day coaching and running our box.
Our goal is to educate our listeners on the things that are relevant to living a healthy lifestyle inside and outside of the gym.
Be sure to subscribe to our show anywhere you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, give us a rating, share, and like our podcast to help us get out and reach more people.
Now here's your hosts, Dave
and Corian.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit Racine. I almost said in the kitchen because I'm so used to it.
Nice.
I am Coach Dave.
Coach Corian.
And this is episode 84. So our 84th episode, and this will be our first episode where it is just...
/1.
Yeah, where it is just Corian and myself talking. And it is the start of New Year. It is 2020. So Corian and I wanted to do an episode kind of chatting about 2019 and a year in review. Typically, we always stare forward and try not to look in the past, but we wanted to kind of talk about our year in review and just kind of, share that with everybody.
Yeah. I think sometimes, when we talk about everything that's going on, me and Rachel talk about this a lot. Like, not everybody knows, all the back end stuff. And, yes, the gym's a great place and we have a great community. We do a lot, but there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah. Trying to be real and trying to get people to understand who you and I are is important because it's a relationship building business. So, it's hard to, if I'm going to amp people up for a workout, I don't want to come in here and be all Debbie Downer and tell you about certain things maybe that are going on in my life. But the way we can do it and connect with you guys is by telling our story and sharing those stories on this podcast. So, let's chat real quick, Corian, about maybe we start with...
Well, we talked about in our last episode, which was with Jason. It was our last episode of the three of us together. And we kind of talked about how things led up to where we're at now. Me and you taking full, management of Racine and him taking management of Kenosha. But I guess, we can talk about some of the things that went on with us in our life. We hit 10 years together this past fall. Yeah, Dave made just big wide eyes because I don't know if you realize that. But 10 years together this past fall, and we've got almost 9 years. We're about to be married, and we've gone through 2 careers.
Yeah, it's been a life-changing, I guess, if people haven't listened to us in sequence and listened to our journey, which would be episode 14, and you don't know much about us, Corian and I came from our career-driven background, and we ended up quitting those careers to start the gym. And I get that asked a lot. It's what did you do here prior? And a lot of people are I guess maybe surprised that that's what I did. Being former law enforcement, obviously there's no secret behind it. You as well, Corian. But they ask why did I change careers? And for me, I think the biggest thing was it just wasn't. It never fulfilled what I felt was a calling. It just left me empty. And there was just no happiness in it. So it was just a very negative atmosphere for me. And I just never felt like I was fulfilling myself fully. So when I found CrossFit, that was that missing piece. I really liked the community aspect of it. And I always enjoyed working out as a stress relief. And I felt man, this is something I really enjoy. And I want to help others and help them find this. Because I think when somebody finds CrossFit, it almost changes their lives because it's more than just working out and doing a workout and just, okay, great, I'm healthy now. No, it's that's part of it. That's a component of it. But the other fact is, I love watching people who maybe don't have whatever their background is. They come in and they're very shy or they're very withdrawn. But then when they join this community and they start to believe in themselves a little bit more and they start to get more confidence in themselves, and it just changes them that way too.
I think, it just wasn't, there was no purpose. Yes, I get it. We obviously love law enforcement, first responders, military, all of that sort of stuff. Nurses, teachers, we have so much respect for you. And there is a purpose in general of those careers and those callings, but they weren't a purpose that I could connect internally, like you said. to myself.
Right.
And it wasn't my purpose, and it didn't resonate as well with me. I think for me, it was expectation versus reality. I've been talking about this a lot the last year. Like, everything that makes me sad, depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, distraught, or all those negative feelings come from a big gap of expectation versus reality. And when you get into something, there's going to be a large gap. You know, even business owning and the gym, like, my expectation versus reality are nowhere near each other from when we first started. But when it came to law enforcement, I wasn't willing to accept what reality was. And it was making me very upset. It was making me very anxious, depressed, and all those negative things. Whereas, like, with the business, because I have a purpose, because I love it, even though my expectation was wrong when we first started, or even as we grow and the things that we choose to do, such as, you know, opening another gym and, you know, each taking a location and this and that, I'm willing to accept the reality that it is. And so my expectations have aligned a lot closer, and so it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think like any of the challenges that ever come up, it's kind of because, I don't know, to me it feels like, well, they're my choosing or my doing. Mm-hmm. And if I want to change it, I have that ability to. So there's a little bit more maybe in my control, not necessarily, you know, like business wise, or there's a certain aspect of the business I want to change, or this, that, or maybe things aren't running right. You know, like 2 years we were with Jason and we were both running 2 locations going back and forth, and we just decided like something needs to change because we just weren't seeing the growth that we felt that we should be seeing because of all the time we were putting in. You know, we were just pretty much sitting stagnant there this past year. So I was like, what can we change that's going to make things different, you know? And like, we're willing to make those changes and sacrifices to, you know, to try it out. And it's.
Do you think that a lot of it though has to do with like age and like just like personal growth? Like, if we flop this, like say we would have opened a gym first, or you, because you've always loved gym and fitness, say you wanted to do that and you like went in that field right away at 18, 19, and 20 versus law enforcement, do you think that maybe the same issue would have resulted, like you would have crashed and burned and expectation reality would have been so far apart that you wouldn't have grown and gone into a different career, maybe law enforcement? Or do you think that it legitimately is just what we're doing? I don't know sometimes.
I think sometimes, you know, when things get tough, I can look back and say, well, it could be this, and it could be what it was, and it could be where I was at, and like kind of puts me in a perspective of being like, well, it's really nothing can be as bad of that situation, or you know, you can kind of reflect on that stuff. Whereas, so there is that hindsight you can kind of lean on, you know.
I guess for me personally, I'm like, oh, well, I already had one career that I left. This is in essence a career. If I choose not to do it anymore and not to accept reality for what it is, then I feel like it's just me being like, you should definitely have expectations and like make your life rise to them, but at the same time, like, you have to be realistic. Like if I kept quote unquote failing at a business or failing at a career, then it, like, at what point is it me, not the careers, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, since this is my second go around, I'm like, oh, like, I guess for me personally, I've learned like life just fucking is hard. It doesn't matter what you do. It's just fucking hard. So you have to, it doesn't matter. Like, if I am working a corporate office job, it doesn't matter if I'm a business person. It doesn't matter if I'm still in law enforcement or decide to join the military or any of those things. Like, there's parts that are hard and there's parts that's not.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, everything's a challenge. Like it's like a CrossFit workout. The workouts don't get easier; they get harder. Mm-hmm. And why do they get harder? Because your weights are going up, you're going faster, you're able to push a little bit harder. But it's like, you know, it's all perspective and how you're going to deal with it. You know, and then again, I guess feeling fulfilled. Running a business is hard. Running my own business is difficult. You know, having you and Jason as partners can be difficult at times, but like, you know, and satisfying,
what?
Trying to satisfy, you know, all the members and be there for them and give them everything they need and make sure that I'm delivering on a promise. You know, that can be pretty hard as well. But like when like you said, your expectations, I guess, when they're aligned with maybe your values and what you believe in, then it doesn't become work to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it still works sometimes. Like it is, but like you said, I'm accepting. Like this is life. Like you're not going to wake up one day and not have responsibilities and duties and things that are hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you woke up and won the lottery, or all the kids that are born into stardom, they don't have the same heart as you, but it doesn't mean that they don't have it. And so I think that realizing that that's just part of life and that's part of the journey, that's what makes life, is what I'm realizing. Because like if we just woke up and our gym was perfect and we had all the equipment, our members were great, my fitness was on point, your fitness was on point, and like you didn't have to do, like, what do you do with your day?
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that's, I don't know, to me that's the fun of owning my business. I enjoy sometimes, like, I don't know, if it's not hard or there's nothing challenging me, then it gets a little mundane.
Absolutely. So let's be honest. It doesn't mean that you're happy all the fucking time, because yesterday was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were a pain in my butt.
Oh no. Let's be real. Dave looked at finances and numbers and he got overwhelmed and then was crabby.
Well,
because things are hard.
Yeah. I'm not a big numbers guy, and I don't really like looking at the numbers, but it's part of what we have to do, so. Mm-hmm. And then you gotta make decisions off that. But anyways, let's chat about, kind of go back in time and talk about 2019 as a whole. For me, I say, so 2020 in my vision is that it's going to be a good year, and I'm going to go into it that way, thinking positive thoughts. I don't like to go back, but I want to share that it's okay to have bad years, because 2019 was probably the worst year of my life. So 36 now, so out of all those years in my existence, I would say that 2019 sucked, and it was like the worst business-wise. It was the worst personal, and it was just a hard overcoming year. And I feel like, but it was life shaping me for what's to come, or like, okay, if you can get through this, then you'll be in a good spot. And it just helped me with mentally being able to prepare that, okay, nothing can be worse than what I dealt with in 2019, right? So just in perspective, we can start business-wise. Back in the beginning of 2019 in January, we lost quite a bit of members because of some fallout with...
Well, I feel like that was even longer ago, though.
No, that was last year.
No, it wasn't. It was 2 years ago.
It was 2018 going into 2019. So we lost about 30 members because we lost 2 coaches.
We lost the coaches in fall.
Right, November.
Okay. But anyway, I just want to preface what we're about to talk about. Like, I guess, like, my purpose with talking about this stuff, I have a really hard time when people ask about our life and what's going on, and then people are like, oh, well, you're really guarded and you don't talk about things. It's, like Dave said, it's not like that I'm guarded. There's just 2 things. One, like, my life revolves around the business and the gym. Like, that's just what it is. So there's not a lot of other things to talk about. But, like, I'm not talking about these things because I want people to feel bad for us,
right,
or try to come up with a solution, or to, tell us how to do it better. Because we're learning, and we've got coaches, and we're working through things. And I think that that's my drawback of why I don't talk about things, is because people don't know how to respond when we're about to say some of the things that happened this past year. People are going to be like, oh shit. And then they're going to want to say sorry, or, what can I do to help? I'm not looking for that.
Right. We're definitely
So I think
not.
sometimes I just don't talk about it because I'm like, you're going to say things because you don't know what to say, and I'm not going to know how to respond to it. So I don't even want to go down that route.
My purpose for kind of sharing it is along the same lines as you, but also, like, I don't know about you, but like when you're going through something and you think like, man, you're just in that dark place, or the world is against you, or just things aren't aligning for you. When you see that somebody else maybe has similar events, and you're like, oh, they got through it, and they look, and like they're doing okay. It almost gives you that, like, then it'll be everything's gonna be okay for me too, because this person got through it, and they seem okay. So that's, I guess, my reasoning for sharing this and talking about it.
Yeah, like I just want people to realize, like we said, like this is life. Life is hard. There's moments. There's things. You know, everybody has those in their life. It is reality.
Yeah.
It is part of life. But I don't think as many people talk about it, or regardless of if I'm talking about it, maybe you didn't catch it. Maybe you missed that day. You were on vacation. You were dealing with your own shit. Like, I think sometimes we forget that people aren't listening to us 24/7.
Maybe.
So, you know, we just want to tell you guys about some of the things we went through. So how did we start the year of 2019, like you said?
Well, let's just quickly go back real quick. Like, I think some of the things we did business-wise, you know, we saw early success really fast. And then we started growing really quickly. We had a good following. We had a good staff, good members. And then, like, everything with Nate and Nina, where they were selling their gym, and we just felt that we could divide and conquer and help Nate and Nina out, and we could reach more people with our vision and our capacity. So we did. We bought them out, and then we expanded to 2 locations. Now, hindsight, looking back, you know, maybe that was a good decision, maybe it was bad, but we can't take that back. So we live with our decisions, whatever. I'm happy that we do have 2 gyms, and we've come to what we have now with how we're running things. I think it is much better, but, you know, in the beginning, we were running between the 2 gyms. Things were going well. We started some good momentum with our Lathrop spot, and saw early success there. We were outgrowing that spot, and then quickly found this spot, and then, like, things, I guess, because of this spot being so big and so much build out and so much stuff, like, you know, the things got hard because you and I had to be building this out. We were gone for like 3 months. We went on vacation, and then we had to come back, and it took us like 3 months to really build this spot out.
Everything sounds good on paper.
Yep. And then obviously rent goes up and other bills because you have to outfit it with equipment, so you have to spend a lot of your reserves. And we knew it. I mean, we planned it. We knew that things were going to be hard. But I guess that withdrawal and our so quick expansion between buying a second location and then buying a bigger location for Racine, there was just some disconnect between us and our community. And I felt like there was some fallout there where people felt a little bit resentful that maybe we were forgetting about them, or we were overgrowing and not really connecting and being personable with them as we were treating it. I think in 2017, I think it was more like, well, this is a business and this is what we have to do. And we were treating it more of like a business as opposed to a relationship business.
And I think that's a good point. Like, it's not that we weren't building relationships, because we still were talking to people. I think that our vision of what those relationships were looking like and how those were going down were just not in alignment with reality. Like, we thought that podcasting, posting, and events were enough. And I was having a hard time. I was in this in-between of, like, wanting to be friends with people, but really having a hard time understanding, like, who I was and what I wanted, and feeling like people weren't accepting me, and I wasn't confident enough in myself to be like, well, this is what makes me happy, and I'm sorry if you can't understand that. So I was, like, in this weird, like wanting to be friends with people, but, like, not knowing how to be.
Yeah, and then I think, like, running it as, like, I mean, personally, in my opinion, I remember thinking to myself, like, well, now I have to run it like a business, because now I have 2 locations and 2 business, and then it was like, well, I have to make business decisions, which I still do, but I think it was just like I felt like I can't become friends because I have 200 plus members between the 2 gyms, and, like, I can't
play favorites.
Yeah, so, like, you know, it was very divided, very like, oh, if I give you this attention, I got to give everybody that attention, so I'm not going to give anybody that attention. And I just treated it more of like, well, you know, coaches can take care of that. And I think maybe we became too complacent and put too much onus on our coaches, too much on them, and then didn't maybe explain our vision as well enough to them, or, like, our direction, and then they got confused. And then there was a lot of just disconnect between us, our members, and the coaches. So, like, losing the 2 coaches over that late fall last year into early part of last year, that's when, you know, things were probably really tough. I would say that's what started out, because we as business owners and owners didn't invest enough emotional bank account into those two coaches.
I think I just feel like it was 2 years ago because that's how hellish this year has been.
Yeah.
And which is crazy because, like, we thought 2018, we're like, oh, this sucks. Like, we lost 2 coaches that, you know, we really valued, things that just didn't go well. And then, you know, losing the members, we're like, okay, this is like as bad as it's gonna get. Rock bottom before we go up, right? Wrong. We were just like on a fucking cliff with like a whole lot of empty space below us to still continue to fall.
Yeah. I mean, it was just pretty much like all that at once. You know, we lost the 2 coaches who were pretty much at the time, full-time coaches that really helped us. So I was like, oh shit, we gotta take care of this. And then losing those 30 members right at the beginning of the year set us like right into like, so instead of like hitting that first year mark where we're like, hey, we're gonna propel forward and really start to take off here with new members, it was like, okay, you get a little bit, and then you lose those members, and it was like, oh shoot.
But
and
let's
then
talk about like how that trickled to everything. Because
I know,
like
it's just going
well, I know, but not necessarily trickled into the rest of the year. But how did that trickle into our thoughts and feelings for everything? I don't know about you, but like looking back, like I didn't trust myself for anything after that. Like I was like, oh my God, I got, you know, these 2 coaches, one that I was really, really close with that I clearly missed a lot of warning signs. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm like, am I a terrible person? Am I doing things right? Do I even belong being a business owner? Am I, you know, my health coaching going right? Like, I don't know about you, but I questioned everything we did after that, and everything I personally did, which I think just continued to make everything go the wrong direction.
Right. Yeah. It definitely made me think like, shoot, what did we? Because in the moment you can't see, can't see what's going on, or you know you're a little blinded by it because you're like, well,
too emotionally attached.
Yeah. And you know, looking back on it now, I know it's like, oh well, I could point to many reasons of certain things that that we did wrong that, you know, steered us in those directions. That, man, you are definitely learning situations to make sure we never do again. You know, so it was like,
I mean, we took for granted that we had a solid pipeline, that leads were coming, that members were bringing in their friends, that they were talking about us. So we're like, okay, yes, we lost 30 members and that hurts, but like on average, like this is what we do. So it's only going to take us X amount of months to get back. Well, because we had hurt our community as a whole, like none of that shit was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then you start question everything. Like you said, like, okay, well, what do we, are we bad leaders? And then we had to restructure what we really believed in. We had to sit down about, you know, our core values and what we believed in, and it took us a long time to build that back up with the coaching staff that we had, and that was a tough part to start the year, you know, because obviously losing 30 members, losing some coaches, and going through all that, you know, you're going to have some financial issues, and that was like right after we moved. So it was like, okay, we just spent all this money on all this equipment, then we lose the 30 members that were going to help pay for that equipment. Shoot, what do we do? So, I mean, starting off the year with that, I know that you and I didn't take paychecks until May.
Well, none of the owners
April.
did. I mean, it wasn't just us.
Jason, me, Jason, and Corian decided, well, I mean, it's either we pay ourselves, which would be stupid, and, you know, which is going to put us in
lose a business.
Put us in a huge hole. Or, you know what, we're gonna have to suck it up. We're the owners. We eat last. Coaches have to get paid. Things have to get purchased, bought, and that was how we ran it, you know, for the first couple months to get our feet back and make sure the business was afloat. And that's just what you do as an owner. I'm not trying to, I guess, have anybody feel bad for me. I mean, that's my choice. I chose this.
And let's also talk about, like, let's be real. We didn't, again, realize how long this is going to go, what the impact was going to be. Right. So Dave and I did not cut expenses either. Yeah, we stopped paying ourselves, but still did the things we wanted to do but it's easy to do that because, like, you watch all these entrepreneurs and all these public speakers that are like, live like a boss and you'll work like a boss and blah, blah, blah. And like self-care is important and you need to do these things. Otherwise, like, what are you even like running a business for? Like, I get that. I do. Mm-hmm. And I still fully believe in that. But again, it has to change. Like, Dave and I were still like going and getting our hair done and we were going out to dinner. And now, granted, we already had our Arizona trip booked prior to us
Yep.
not paying ourselves. So like that was already set. But like we definitely could have probably not spent money like we did, you know,
right.
but we didn't realize how long, not even long, because it really wasn't, but just like how much of a dip this was going to make us take to come back from. And like we think like, oh, you know, this will turn around in 1 to 2 months and then everything will be back to normal. Well, it did start to turn around in 1 to 2 months, but you're making up for lots of time. And
yeah, well, owners pay is off profits, and you're always about a month or two behind. So when it comes to that, so like even though things were turning around, we had been making headway, and you know, it just took hard work and, you know, really trying to work at it. So, you know, we turned things around rather quickly. You know, it was still, well, you know, you're paying yourself is still a month or two behind, because that's just how it works. So yeah.
So that's how we started off the year, not paying ourselves, but still spending money like we were. So that was fun. It was a great decision on our part.
Live and learn.
Again, you know, and that's what me and you were talking about when we were walking around yesterday. Like, everybody's like, oh, if I knew them when I knew now. No, fucking stop lying. Because, like, there is not a single person in the entire world or history that has ever, like, wanted to do something, wrote out a plan, and executed it exactly how it was. Like, that is not life. Life is about learning and adjusting as you go, because you cannot make solutions to problems that don't exist in practical ones. Like, you could think about it, but it's not going to be perfect. And so, like, we had to go through these things, and we had to think about these, you know, in order for us to, what is a actual solution for this problem.
Yeah. So then it became, you know, all right, well, we're not paying ourselves, so what can we do? We got creative with it. We sold the condo, and we sold a bunch of our...
in hindsight, hated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we didn't like it anyways. It was a terrible place to live. The year prior, threw what was it, $7,000? Or $4,000. They threw, so like, okay, our kitchen flooded 3 times.
2017 was a bad year too.
Yeah, flooded 2 times, or 3 times since I'd lived there, and I've been living there since 2005, okay? It's flooded 3 times. Each time the association fought me and told me that it was my issue, and I'm like, it's your pipes. So I had to sue them 3 times, and each time I won, or they settled with me. So then that year, so I'm like, well, what is the point here, right? We hate living here. They treat us like shit. Once they paid us back for the last kitchen assessment, we had to turn around and pay them $4,000, because all of a sudden now they had an emergency assessment that they felt that they had to install on everyone for siding, because the builder didn't put any flashing in the windows or the doors. So this was like an emergency thing that they decided had to be done right then and there. They didn't allow us to even make payments on it. They were like, nope, it's $4,000, or we're going to put a lien on your
They gave us an option of 3 monthly payments.
Okay. Well,
but anyway,
we had the money at that point.
Because it's our ego. It's because as people and as Americans, we're like, oh, own a house and you'll be successful and all. And me and you both were successful in our prior career. We both bought houses on our own, and we're making lots of money. And so when we really sat down and thought about it, it was like, oh, well, it's just like our own pride that's holding us to this condo.
Right. Like,
essentially.
To be like, oh, I own a house, and renting is beneath me. And then it was like...
It wasn't renting is beneath us. Our mortgage was just really cheap.
Well, yeah. So we were just like, but the expenses that come with that, right? So like, you know, the condo was getting older. It had flooded 3 times. And, you know, we knew that they were going to start it. They told us, they gave us warning that in the next couple of years, they're going to have to redo the roofing and the parking lot. So they were trying to put that off as long as possible. And I was like, man, they're going to hit us with another assessment, and we can't deal with that. And there's nothing to do at this complex. I mean, there was absolutely nothing. There's no pool. There's no fitness. There was nothing. So decided we don't even like it here. Like, why are we here? So we moved out. So we sold it. And then when we decided to sell, we were like, why are we? And it actually kind of came at a perfect point. The owner, just like we talked about it, and then like the next day he must have been listening. He had a microphone in our house or something. But he contacted me and was like, hey, are you ready to sell? And I was like, actually.
Yeah.
So it kind of came like back to back, kind of at a good timing. And then it was like when we were getting ready to move, it was like, well, what do we need all this stuff for? Like, my idea would be like, let's just downsize. Because, stuff is just...
Well, I've been talking about going tiny for years.
Yeah, that's true. You do want a tiny home.
Yeah.
But it's like, stuff is just stuff. Like, what do we need all this stuff for? The sitting, a lot of it was in our garage. And we knew wherever we were moving we weren't going to have a garage.
Yeah.
But it was like, why do you need to have a dining room? Why do you need to have 3 bedrooms? Why do you need to have all this stuff? So, started selling stuff off, which helped us,
Pay some of the bills that we had been acquiring.
So that was tough, but then it was just really, looking back at it, it was a good decision, because it was like we paid off a lot of the overhead that we had that it accrued, and then it's like freeing kind of, because it's like I don't have to worry about all the stuff that comes with being a homeowner, and and like one of the things that you and I have always talked about when we get older is we want to have the freedom to just go.
Yeah.
So when the gym, I guess when we move on from the gym someday, it'll be nice to just be like, well, there's nothing here like a mortgage or a home that's tying us down. We can go, right? So that's the point of having an apartment. Some people can say like, oh, you don't have a mortgage now, so you have no nest egg. Which really, it's like, that's just the American way of like thinking like you have to have this stuff. It's all just stuff. You can't take it with you when you pass.
But nowadays, like, people don't even like build or buy a house and then stay there forever and pass it on to the kids or whatever. Like, people are moving every 5 to 10 years, max.
Generally bigger houses.
Yeah. So like, people aren't. But like, I love watching House Hunters, but I hate watching it because they're like, we're looking for our forever home. No, you're not. You're going to be on House Hunters another 3 years because now you're having kids and you need a bigger home. And this was just a starter home. And then you're going to be on House Hunters in another 10 years when all your kids are moving on and going to college and the house is too big for you. And now you need a smaller home. Yeah. Like, this is not a forever home. And this is just our society, like, getting you to buy in on, like, all the things so that it keeps, quote unquote, the economy going, allegedly. So
anyway, shortly after that, we find our apartment. I love our apartment.
It's got some downfalls, but everything in life does.
So that was like the financial aspect of it, getting over the first part of the year, the financial, and then trying to be creative with what we could do personally, to overcome what we had done to ourselves. By
this point, we really did stop spending frivolously.
Yeah, so. We had corrected that. and then like into the summer, like obviously I lost my younger brother, Steven. And that was like probably that's what makes this year, I think, the hardest year obviously in my life, losing my brother because he was my best friend, and having to deal with that, which is still very hard to deal with. I'm just tearing up just thinking about it, but yeah, and I'm still not over it. It's still not, because obviously, we just went through Christmas and New Year's it was his birthday in November, so it was just really hard. That was probably the hardest thing I had to deal with.
And I don't think that you need to be over it and move on or anything else. Like, I'm going to tell you what reality is. Like, it's always going to be hard, babe. Like, holidays are just never going to be the same.
Yeah. No, they won't. But like, I went through a pretty dark period right after his, when he passed. I couldn't figure it out. He was only 31. He would have been 32 this year. And just like looking at that and being like, why? Because I couldn't, and I still don't know why. And that's the hard part, understanding that. But he had a lot of medical issues, and it was like, man, he was only 31. Two kids.
But you're such a final person. Like, you need that. You can't just be like, this is life. Like, you need, like, when it comes to the business, or when it comes to me and you, or it comes to your family, like, oh, this is the answer right here, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, you're an answer person. And I think that's why it's so hard for you, is because there is no clear-cut answer, and you don't feel like you can accept it and move on until there's an answer. Mm-hmm. Where you just have to be like, this is just life. You may never have an answer on it.
Right. And I think, it has opened my eyes, this whole year, looking back on it as we went through November and December, when we started chatting about splitting and changing things up a little bit business-wise, and being like, all right, something's got to go, because like, we built back what we lost early part of the year, but then we just we were just not, there was no growth in either of the gyms, and it was just like we would gain 10 members but then lose 10 members. We would gain 11 members but then lose 11 members, and it was just like, what is going on here? Like, what are we doing wrong? Because there is a disconnect. You can't just sign people up and then have the door open in the back and they're just sneaking out the back. So we had to figure something out, like what is going on? Why is there so much turnover?
We've spent,
because you put so much time and effort into members, like you know, and it that's the point of it. I love investing in our members, and it got frustrating because it would be like, I invest so much, or I put so much time, and at least you think you are, and then that, right?
I think the hard part is that again, you know, we're putting all this effort in and we're trying, and you know, we did holidays together and events together, and then we did them apart, and we did this and we did that, and like it's just like, what is that? Like, what's working, what's not working? Like, why is none of this helping? Like, no matter what we do, seem to just, and then we had to ask ourselves that like tough question, like, again, is this reality? Is this what it's like to be gym owners? Like, will this always be what we do?
Yeah, then like chatting with people who have successful gyms, and it's like, no, they can be better. You just like, let's break it down and see what you guys are doing. And then chatting with certain people, like, well, you know, of course, they didn't even realize that's what we were doing, you know, running between the two gyms and splitting ourselves, only being 50% owners of both gyms, and then only being able to invest 50% in the members when you're there. So really, you're only investing 25% of your time. The other 25% of your time is driving between the two gyms and wondering where you're at and appointments. And then I was like, well, I didn't even realize you guys were doing that. Like, you guys should have been doing this from the beginning. And it was like kind of that reality, like, oh, maybe we were running things a little bit wrong. And like you said, maybe it was just a pride thing. Like, we can run two facilities. There's three of us. So, you know, my thought was in the beginning was always like, well, if I'm not at one gym, then I know that Jason or Corian's at the other one, so we're good. And really we looked at it as like, as long as an owner's there, right? So as long as an owner's there, we'll be okay. And that's really what it is. But like knowing what we know now, we know that this is a relationship building business, and the members want to connect personally with the person that, I mean, they're investing in us. They're giving us their money. So then those people want to make sure that, like, if I'm looking at it from a member's perspective, I'd want to know and get to know the owner as well too, and like have that relationship with them. If I'm investing this amount of money in them, I got to like the coaches, got to like the atmosphere, and got to believe in what they believe in.
And I agree with that to a point. I think that each gym sets up their stuff differently, and just the way that we've always envisioned our gym is us being around and having connections. So we were trying to do that. It just wasn't working.
Trying to do it with a 25% capacity.
Yeah.
And looking at it, like, I forget, where do you get that? What was that thing about relationships where you can only have a certain amount of...
We talk about it all the time. It was...
was it Gary Sinek?
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek, that's it.
One of his.
And like, yeah, you kind of put the nail on the head, was like, well, you know, you read that Crucial Conversations book, and then it was like... We
start implementing that with our coaches and with our staff, but Jason's the one that was like, well, what about us?
Yeah. We're trying to do, and we're not even, so we're trying to implement this, you know, where you can only have 150 meaningful relationships per person. Our membership is over 200 between the two gyms, so we're all divided, and there's no wonder there's a disconnect here, but we're expecting our coaches to step up and do it.
Yeah.
And if you can hear in the background, Blair and Rachel are having some fun in the gym today.
Yeah.
So they've been bouncing weights and chatting it up all day.
Yeah.
As Blair gets ready for his Canada trip here.
But you got to think too, you know, not only are we trying to make these relationships with our gym members, but, you know, family.
Yep.
And each other.
Yep.
And, you know, everything else. So, I said this the other day. I was like, I'm such an extrovert and a people person, and like this last year, I'm just fried. I don't know if I'm turning into a little bit more introverted where I need the downtime and where I'm not getting as recharged with being around people. But like I am, and we talked about this on our last podcast, I am mentally and emotionally burnt out. I'm getting better. Like I'm much happier overall, like my happiness is back.
Yeah.
But I'm still tired all the time. Like I get done with the gym or I get done with our week and I get done and I just go home and like I'm much quieter than I used to be.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? Part of it is like you're entertaining all day and you're giving your emotional energy. So when you get home, that emotional energy is just, it's sapped up and you have to recharge a little bit. So the way to recharge is to kind of like zone out a little bit and like, because you've been going all day long.
I'm just saying I never used to be that way. I used to recharge from going and being around other people. Like I didn't recharge well on my own.
That's what you thought.
Yeah, like I said, this last year, and I don't know, like if it was that backpacking trip, I had to spend, again, expectation reality, spent a lot more time alone and in my own fucking head, but it just, ever since then, like you said, I'm happier overall, my days are well, for the most part, but I'm just finding that I'm a lot happier going home and just relaxing and, taking it quiet and on the weekends too and stuff like that. Like I don't feel the need to also be going all those times too.
Yeah, of course. You're like me now. I'm rubbing off on you.
A little bit.
But yeah, so 2019 probably the hardest year. Man, there could be so many more things I guess we could chat about, but like don't want to keep going on about all the bad things. I guess what it did do though, even though 2019 was terrible. It was 4 years in business, and that was probably the hardest year of our business, right? Riding the ship there, dealing with all the personal things, and then when you're dealing with all these little things, it just keeps hitting you. Because then mentally you're trying to get better, and you're like, okay, you're gonna have a growth mindset, you're gonna push forward, and then something else hits you, and you're just like, there's another thing, and this is just like trying to bash you down and keep you down. And like, I guess like the one thing that did teach me, and then like the positive of it is, if you can overcome this, you can pretty much handle anything. And that's kind of how I went into 2020. I'm like, I'm going to think like, 2019 is behind us. There's nothing I can do to change any of that.
Nope.
Only thing I can do is learn from mistakes. And that's the beauty of owning your own business. And that's the beauty of being your own boss is you're going to make mistakes and I'm okay with it. And then we're going to learn from those mistakes. So I'm going to learn from what we did as being bad bosses. I'm going to learn from what we did by destroying some of the relationships that we had with members. And I'm going to make those members, the relationships I have with our members now, even more lasting and even more impactful, because that's my vision of how I want to treat our members going forward. So even though they were bad things, they've developed me and made me learn from those, I guess, and make me a better business owner, a better boss, a better coach. Yeah,
like I said, you can't do those things without learning. Like, it's impossible, because no matter what, no matter if we would have had all the money in the world when we started this gym and we hired the best business coach and had all the resources at our disposal, we still would have fucked up and made mistakes.
Yeah.
Because you can't just be told.
Well, you can that's the thing, like that life is about.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like this is the reality of life, is that there's these stages. There's these ups and these downs and these in-betweens. Dave and I, try to not break down on the same day. Like if he's having a breakdown, like I can't have a breakdown, but then usually we kind of like feed off each other. So like I'll be have like 3 hard days, like when it really hits me hard, and then Dave will pick me up, and then like 2 days later, like Dave's like fuck, and it's just this teeter-totter back and forth. But again, this is reality. Like this is life. You have to learn. No one's gonna hand things to you. No one's gonna teach you a blueprint of exactly what to do, and you're gonna execute it flawlessly and be fine. This is something like I pulled up. I know you've been seeing me play on my phone, but it was for a reason. So Moon Omens has this thing, and I follow them a lot because they just post like a lot of affirmations and positive stuff, and it's definitely helping me. But it's kind of long. It says, if you feel like you cannot move on from whatever you are going through at the moment, remember this. 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, or 2 years ago, you thought the same thing. You were in a position that threatened all that was hopeful within you. You did not think you would survive. But 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, or 2 years ago, you did. You did it. You woke up in the morning, you pushed through the mess, you dug yourself out of the hurt. You held on to whatever light you found within your days. You pressed it into yourself whenever you could, and you reminded yourself that goodness still exists, that the softness was still there. 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, or 2 years ago, you fought your way out of the dark. You have the strength to save yourself. You always have, and please don't ever forget that. And I think back to like you said, this year sucked, but we were in much darker places when we were in law enforcement.
Right.
Like, when I try to tell people that, like, CrossFit and being a business owner, like, saved my life, like, I'm not kidding. Like, me and you were in dark places. And I talk about it with some people. Like, I drank to blackout almost every day. I smoked. You know, we were both crabby. We had terrible relationships with our family. We had, to be honest, a very unhealthy marriage. I would say up until the last couple of years. But, like, that just reminds me, like, there's always going to be these moments. And you're, like you said, you're 36, I'm 33. We've always made it through. We're batting 1,000 here. We're good.
Right.
You know?
That's what it's about. It's a learning situation. And, like, no matter what you see on Instagram, no matter what you see on people's Facebooks, you know, you think that their lives are perfect. No one's life is perfect. And I guess that's the reason why we wanted to talk about this is, like we put a face on. It's our business, and and I love the business.
And 90% of the time, the face is real.
Absolutely. Like, you can't fake that. And I do love it. And then, what energizes me is seeing all the members have fun and come in here, and this is where they choose to spend their time with. That gives me enjoyment. And making these relationships is total enjoyment for me. But, there's the business side of it too. It's not always easy. It's not just a lot of people think like, oh, you're just gonna open a CrossFit gym and it's gonna be a bunch of fun.
Work out all day.
Yeah, you work out all day, and people come there and they pay you, and like there can't be that much overhead. Like, it's got to have the lights on, got to pay coaches, got to pay insurance, got to pay. There's a lot of things that go into it, and probably that we didn't even understand at least when we started out. And it's not always easy, and it's a business owner, and like I make relationships with our business owners, and that's kind of what keeps me going too. Is like hearing them. Like I knew last year was tough. Business, that was the hardest year in business for us. Like we had early success and we felt good. We were riding that high, and then year 4 hit, and it was probably, like I said, the toughest year in business. And it's like, shoot, what are we doing here? Like, and then, that's why businesses fail. I think that's what happens is they have early success, or maybe they don't, and then, they have to go. But like, how do you handle early success, and then how do you handle failure? And that's, I think, where the definition is if you can't handle failure and you can't move past it, and you can't figure out quickly enough what you're doing and make those changes, then I think that's when the business fails. And we refuse to fail. I refuse to fail. Sometimes we don't always make the right decision. It's like a workout. You had a game plan and it didn't go right.
Nope. Mine did not. Well...
You went unbroken in those overhead squats.
Which was fine. That's actually
where... sets in those toes to bar. I was counting.
Yeah, my toes to bar was bigger sets. But, honestly, it didn't go that bad today. My failure was the fact that I just thought it was 21:15.9 and then rest for 5 minutes. And then I went to write it down, and I was like, AMRAP? What's AMRAP? What are we AMRAPing? And then I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. I was like, so if I make it through, I have to go back to 21.
So anyways, I guess the whole point of this is no matter what anybody puts on Facebook or on their story, like you always think like, man, they have such a good life and they're so happy. Like everybody has things in their closet. It's just whether you choose to share it. And we wanted to share, like I said, so everyone understands that it's okay. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have bad years, and like things aren't always going to be good. And you can have the worst year of your life, like we did, and it's okay. You're going to come out on top. We're doing great now. We have really good momentum. I think that some of the decisions we made in business have really changed. It's refocused us. It's made us more excited. And I'm excited to charge forward into 2020. Business wise, personally, losing my brother was hard, but now it's one thing that has helped me. It was like you said, we had bad relationships with our families. Like I didn't chat with my mom and dad since we got married. It was the year after we got married. Yeah. We both sides kind of just let that relationship sever, and we never fixed it. And because losing my brother was the first time I've seen my parents in 7 years, saw him at my brother's funeral, which was hard. And then it was like we went out to dinner, and it was like the most awkward dinner ever because my brothers, we didn't talk, and then I didn't talk to my parents, and there was a lot of animosity there, and we all just kind of like looked at each other and was like, the one thing that Steven always wanted to do was get us back together. He fought like hard to get everyone to just come back together and like stop, just bury the hatches. There's no point in this and all. And we all were like, screw it. It's this person's fault, blaming other people. And then the one thing we did when we went out to dinner was look at each other and be like, why? Like, that was such wasted years. Can't get those years back. We can't take Steven back. But the one thing that Steven would want would us to repair this relationship. And it's not perfect, but we're chatting again, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know, and we just all look back at it and we're like, that's what Steven would have wanted. You know, is that the reason that this happened? We don't know. But, you know, life's about making decisions and learning from it, and then that's where we're at.
Yeah, like I said, I think that the point of this podcast, for me personally, is just to get people to understand that hardship's just part of life. Things aren't going to go right, and things aren't going to be perfect, but that's what makes life what it is. Without that, what would you do? What would you do all day?
Yeah. There would be no challenge.
No.
So yes, we're not looking for sympathy.
It would be like that Lego movie where they're just like, everything is awesome all day. But it'd be the same things all day, every day. There'd be nothing to differentiate.
Yeah. Yeah, so we hope we give some inspiration to people out there, other business owners maybe who are listening to this, members maybe to get to know us a little bit more and what we are. It's not always just about you just get to know us in the workout. But again, we're not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for anybody to come up to me and say I'm sorry or give me anything or do anything. You know, just keep being awesome. Just keep showing up. Support us by just being a member, you know, and like we'll give you everything we got. I promise to give that every single day.
And maybe you can help someone else by talking about things that you're going through, and you know, just maybe sometimes like this is something that really helped me like understand that when people come in here and maybe they're a little sassier than they normally are, or they're running late, or you know, something else is, or they're quieter. Like I really have to think what is going on in their life, and then how can I make this a more enjoyable day for them? You know, I don't always have to ask what it is. I don't have to pry or anything like that, but I have to give them some leeway to be human as well.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, as our community, if you guys could take that away, that would be awesome. So just remember when you're in here and you think like someone's being crabby or someone's being a bitch, or, you know, how dare they do something, like just wonder what are they going through that you don't know about.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that people go through. Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap that one up. Getting real on this episode. Yeah. Maybe the next one will make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more enjoyable. I don't know. Maybe this was enjoyable for some of you. Yeah. But remember, why do we fall? So we can get back up.
Oh, boy.
That's my quote.
Go ahead and write us. What do you guys want to hear this year coming up? I know we do a lot of things with the gym. We talk about training, recovery, mindset, but we really like to hear what you guys want to know about. So shoot us some topics and we'll discuss it and see what we can help you guys with.
Yeah. That wraps up another episode of Anchored. We'll see you guys next episode. Stay classy, Harbor Park.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Anchored Podcast.
If you wish to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Dave_mobility CF_coach and at Corian_health CF_coach. Or you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
While you're at it, if you found value in the show, shoot us a 5-star review.
Unless there's a problem, shoot us a message first.
Please help us get our message out to others by sharing our show with a friend so we can impact more people's lives.
See you on the next episode of Anchored at Harbor Park.
Stay classy.